are the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Welcome, football fans. It's Mitch here, back with another reaction video. And in this video, I'm reacting to the annual ESPN top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. And you might understand how this works, but if you don't, this is a list compiled through the votes of NFL executives, coaches, and scouts. So this is an intriguing look inside the NFL at how they value the quarterbacks in the league right now. So, without further ado, let's break down and analyze ESPN's top 10 quarterbacks. But before I do, spike the like button, and of course, let me know in the comments. I need your help. Is ESPN right or is ESPN wrong? Where are they right? Where are they wrong? Let me know in the comments section below. Like the video. It helps more people find this video and find my channel. And let's get to it. Let's break down the top 10 quarterbacks according to ESPN. And I guess the NFL. So, execs, coaches, scouts rank the top 10 quarterbacks of 2025. Let's get to it. Let's break it down. ESPN. 70 voters, 70 submitted a ballot on at least one position. And in many cases, all positions. Okay, I like it. So, if you guys haven't noticed, they've been doing this for every position, but of course, quarterback's the most fascinating. We have a nice little graphic of Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, and Lamar Jackson, the core four, the fantastic four for some. Several themes emerged from this year's quarterback polling, none more important than this. Tier 1 is historically good. The top 4 quarterbacks left the rest of the field in the dust during this year's top 10 voting. All 4 are squarely in their primes between 28 and 29. They have 5 MVPs among them. And although 3 of these quarterbacks are still chasing Patrick Mahomes' Super Bowl achievements, they appear to be closing the gap by the year. That is a golden era for young quarterbacks that should be appreciated. What else should you know about this class? The group is more exclusive this time around. In most years, at least 16 quarterbacks attract significant votes. No longer, just 12 players had traction. That's interesting. Okay. That's interesting. 4 of those 12 are from the 2020 draft class, which is turning out to be one of the very best from the 2000s. So that would be Joe Burrow, Tua, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, Jordan Love. Am I missing any? Since our rankings began in 2020, this is the first year without Aaron Rodgers in the top 10. Youth prevails. Matthew Stafford is the only top 10 passer above the age of 30. The list features 3 new entrants. Okay. The league is not concerned with the possibility of a Jayden Daniels dip in production at all. Also interesting. Let's get to it. Beginning at number 1. So we're going from number 1 to number 10, guys. So, at number 1, Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs. His lowest ranking being 4 and his highest ranking being 1. I always appreciate that they do put this on the list so we actually know the range from the voters. And I'm glad to see that there was some range here because as we've talked about, I don't think Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL entering 2025. I've made that clear as day if you guys have been following my channel and hopefully subscribing because you're not a jabroni. But I do believe that if you want to put him at 1, I understand your case. I just personally believe that the quarterback evaluation evolves from season to season. So if your case about Patrick Mahomes being number 1 is that he's a winner, here's the problem. He played in the Super Bowl and then got annihilated in the Super Bowl. And so not only did he not win this year, the Super Bowl that is, he also had one of the worst statistical seasons, if not the worst season of his career, where he ranked outside the top 5 in pretty much every meaningful statistic. You can go through it. Passing touchdowns, passing yards, completion percentage, passer rating, QBR, PFF grade, go down the list, right? Big time throws, turnover worthy plays. You go down the list, right? He was not top 5. I don't even think he was top 5 in EPA, which is like something that Andy Reid owns. Okay? I could be wrong about that one, but just throwing it out there. Okay? So Patrick Mahomes was not only not first in any of these statistics, he also wasn't even top 5. So from my experience ranking quarterbacks and viewing the ranking of quarterbacks throughout my youth and now into my years of analyzing the NFL, I have never experienced an offseason where a quarterback has unanimously been graded the best in the NFL without literally doing anything to allow him to be the best. He did not win the Super Bowl. That's Jalen Hurts. He did not win the MVP. That's Josh Allen. He wasn't statistically the best quarterback in football. That's Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow, depending on your perspective. Okay? So what exactly has Patrick Mahomes achieved in 2024 that makes him the best quarterback in 2025? So what we're basing this on is like a sample size of 5 years. But if you were actually to dive into Patrick Mahomes' recent play since the year 2022, he's been closer to the 4th or 3rd best quarterback, in my opinion, in the NFL when taking into account all areas of individual performance, statistical dominance, achievements, and then also team accolades. If you were to combine all of those things together, he's in the top 3, in my opinion, with Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Patrick Mahomes. I think right after that, because of the injury, is Joe Burrow. But there's a case for Joe Burrow on this list, which I believe we'll get to, which will be fascinating. But I've talked about it. I hope that clears everything up. I've heard amazing, an incredible amount of comments from you guys, Chiefs fans. And I totally respect your case. And I totally respect even Patrick Mahomes fans, if they're not Chiefs fans. They are claiming that Mahomes is still one, not only because he wins, but also because he did it with a injured supporting cast this year. And my only problem with that debate is, by the end of the season, when games mattered, he pretty much had everybody at his disposal, outside of Rashee Rice, who got injured early in the year and was out for the season. But besides that, he still had Travis Kelce, one of the top 3 tight ends of all time, even if he is a little bit older and not as good and washed, sort of. He did get worthy to the point of basically becoming a number 1 receiver. Like, in my opinion, after grading the wide receivers and ranking wide receivers in the NFL, he's a top 40 receiver in football right now. Hollywood Brown has been a top 32 receiver before, and the only reason maybe he wasn't on my list this year is because he didn't get to play the whole year. But by the playoffs, he was there, right? And maybe the rapport is an argument that there wasn't quite enough rapport there quite yet. The run game, I actually think, is a pretty significant argument in favor of Mahomes, but I feel like not enough Chiefs fans are actually bringing up that their run game wasn't that effective this year. And it was effective when they did win Super Bowls in 2022 and 2023, at least in games where it needed to be effective, right? And then I think the biggest thing for Mahomes has been he has Andy Reid. Like, no other quarterback, no matter how good Todd Monken has been for Lamar Jackson, no other quarterback has the coordinator advantage and the coaching advantage that Patrick Mahomes has, specifically on offense. Then you combine that with Steve Spagnuolo's brilliance of defense and big game plans and their defense coming through time after time in the playoffs. Like, that defense won them the Super Bowl in 2023. It wasn't Patrick Mahomes' brilliance, in my opinion. And I think that statistically is proven. I think if you watch those games, I felt like he was up and down and all around against the Niners in the Super Bowl. Played great in the end, but at the beginning, he was not good. First half, he was bad, outright. AFC Championship, great at the start, bad at the end, okay? AFC Divisional round, pretty much what we have to look to is that he's played brilliantly against the Bills. But if you actually separate his performance against the Bills and the rest of his playoff performance, which is where people want to give the claim of Patrick Mahomes, because he is situationally brilliant, and in a one-drive scenario, he is the guy you would want. And I agree with that case. I agree with that, okay? That I would take Patrick Mahomes in a one-drive setting among all quarterbacks in football. But here's the problem, okay? There are 58 other minutes in a game. And without potentially the best coaching in football and a top 3 defense the last couple years, I don't know if we're in those same situations continuously. Or breaks from the refs even. I was just watching the quarterback documentary and I forgot that the Bengals lost to the Chiefs because of a 4th and 18 pass interference call. But that's just besides the point, okay? So, yeah, to me, Patrick Mahomes, just to me as an overall case, does not have enough in his favor to be the number 1 quarterback in football right now. This is not even bias or hate. This is just me outright objectively evaluating the position. Josh Allen has less around him than Patrick Mahomes does. Lamar Jackson has achieved more individually. He's arguably been the MVP of the last 2 years. And Josh Allen stole that from him this year with a great performance, right? And for some, Joe Burrow and his passing excellence this past season is also in that category. So I just don't see it with Mahomes because I've seen years where even if Tom Brady was regarded the greatest quarterback, like here's the difference. Patrick Mahomes is the greatest quarterback in the NFL right now. I guess Aaron Rodgers could be also up for debate, right? And I mean by accolade, I mean by career, okay? So those are debatable. But the best right now currently playing is the guy in the best form, okay? And to me, Mahomes is not in the best form. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Now, let's read their evaluation here in case I missed anything. Mahomes' grip on the top spot is loosening slightly. Only slightly, apparently. After dominating the voting with back-to-back number 1 rankings in convincing fashion. See, I don't think he was the best quarterback in 2023 either. So I'll stand by that. Even despite him winning the Super Bowl, I didn't think he had a great year in 2023. He garnered around 60% of first-place votes this year, which is still impressive, but well short of last year. 2022, I absolutely give you he was the best quarterback. He was from front to back, had a great all-time season. And I think the other year where he was clearly the best quarterback was 2018, and I would also give him 2019 as well because of the playoff excellence, even if the regular season he was injured for a portion of it, just a couple of games, but... I think Mahomes has been the best quarterback in football in 18, 19, and 22. Otherwise, I would say that Brady, Rodgers, or Josh Allen has been the best quarterback in football, and maybe Lamar. So that's the way I see it. But, yeah. He finished 8th in QBR the past 2 years. Okay. You know, the performance is modest by his standards. O-line in decline, particularly at tackle. Wide receiver group completely cleaned out by injury. Again, not by the end of the season when games actually mattered for the Chiefs. A veteran coordinator said about Mahomes' supporting cast, I thought he had more command of the time, score, situation, and better fundamentals from within the pocket than ever. He's a one-man army, and no NFL coach wants to deal with him. Complete dog. No one like him. Maybe Joe Burrow, but Burrow isn't as dangerous as a player. Okay, so he's talking about creation ability. I would agree that Mahomes has matured in terms of his ability to control a game and manage a game. And that's a lost art at the quarterback position for many people. And I think his actual edge over players like Josh Allen is he has more control and understanding of those situations. And I think that comes down to his coaching for a big degree. I think Mahomes does that kind of like the closest to Brady that we currently have in the NFL. Burrow, I guess, sort of, but I think Burrow sometimes takes bad sacks, while I don't feel like Mahomes does. But Burrow has a much worse situation on his hands with a much worse defense. He can't rely on his defense the same way Mahomes can, right? So that's part of the problem there. Mahomes still leads the NFL in virtually every stat category since 2018. Again, I don't know why this list is based on 5 years ago, but I guess it is. Okay, so we've talked about Mahomes. You guys let me know in the comments what you think about the Mahomes debate. Do you think he's the best quarterback in football? Do you think he is the second, third, fourth? He's probably nowhere lower than fourth, according to this poll, of course. Okay, so Josh Allen. which for some reason, I don't know why, but his picture is extremely blurry here. The highest ranking, number 1. The lowest ranking, number 4. He is 29 years old. Last year's ranking, number 3, which I thought was crazy because I think I had him number 1 last year as well, or, at worst, number 2. But yeah, I'm glad that at least somebody ranked him number 1, and then his lowest ranking number 4, which honestly, I can't see Josh lower than 3, but that's just me. Allen standing in our top 10 has been a journey and a point of contention in Buffalo. Okay. In 2020, he became an unquestionably top shelf quarterback. I believe by the end of 2023, turnovers had started to mount. Allen had thrown 47 interceptions, fumbled 18 times over the span of 3 years. Part of that is because he has to carry his team. That led an NFL executive to criticize Allen as overrated, to which Buffalo general manager Brandon Beane took exception. There's idiots everywhere, he said. I don't remember watching that one, but that's fantastic. Allen's performance in 2024, however, erased any doubt with his play applying pressure to Mahomes. Nearly 4,300 total yards, 40 touchdowns, 6 picks. Allen showed that his very best garners an MVP award, 13 regular season wins, despite the lack of a true number 1 in his prime. Or true number 1, period. I don't know why you have to say in his prime. There is no number 1 on the team. I think, the biggest arguments for Allen are physical ability. He is physically the best quarterback in football. When you combine his arm strength and his rushing capabilities, his size, his extension skills. If you add in last year's ability to honestly tone down the turnovers, but on a wide scale, turnover-worthy plays were the best he's ever been. Sack percentage, he constantly is leading the NFL in not getting sacked. He's the hardest quarterback to sack in the NFL, statistically speaking. He didn't make as many mistakes, all that sort of stuff. And just controlling the game from that perspective, on top of still leading the NFL in explosive passes. Big-time throws, still led the NFL the last 2 years in that category, despite toning down the turnovers, which to me is a contrast that you don't see from Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes may not turn it over, and he actually did a little bit this year, but he also is not creating big throws down the field as much anymore. He is throwing the ball behind the line of scrimmage. He's throwing the ball at the line of scrimmage. He's throwing the ball short for yak. Allen is still feeding the ball in tight windows despite not turning it over, which is an extremely important quarterback contrast that I think needs to be taken into account with performance. He's done everything. An NFC personnel executive said he's answered every test. He makes less mistakes and takes care of the ball. The only thing left to do is win it all. I agree with that. The only thing left to do is win it all because he has performed in the playoffs. Unlike Lamar Jackson, he has performed at a very high historic level in the playoffs, even if he's lost games. So I kind of think that out of the guys that are not named Mahomes, and honestly, the difference between Allen and Mahomes, I think from a career perspective, is that Allen has been put in a worse situation than Mahomes. Mahomes is with Andy Reid and Hall of Fame talents like Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones, etc., Steve Spagnuolo even. And then on the Bills, you basically don't have a Hall of Fame caliber offensive skill player with him. You did have Stephon Diggs, who's a borderline Hall of Famer, I guess. But other than that, he's never had another Hall of Fame caliber player. Defensively, he's never had a Hall of Fame caliber player. Some very good players, I would say, and some very good defenses at times. But every single time in the playoffs, they have crumbled. And Sean McDermott has crumbled, specifically against Andy Reid, which is the worst part of all. He epitomizes the modern quarterback. He led the NFL in QBR and pass per dropback against pressure. That's pretty impressive. So he's the best against pressure as well. Throw that into the reason why I would put him at number 1. So, yeah, Josh Allen, I think, is the best quarterback entering 2025. That's my personal opinion. I think he has to carry his team the most, which is why he won the Most Valuable Player award. Underline the name of the award. At number 3, Joe Burrow. This is interesting because I don't think a lot of people have Joe Burrow ahead of Lamar Jackson. We're going to discuss this. Lamar being at 4 is the most fascinating. Being that it's ESPN and being that it's the NFL, I'm not very surprised because they've constantly underrated Lamar Jackson. But at the same time, from the draft on until now, I guess, he actually was graded number 1 by some people. That's interesting. I don't think many fans are putting Joe Burrow at number 1 in the NFL. Now, if there is a debate for Joe Burrow, I think currently, out of all situations, he probably has the worst situation. Despite having the best receiving core out of the bunch of the 4 players, if you combine the entire situation, general manager, head coach, defense, offensive line, etc., he has a worse situation by far. I think Mahomes and Lamar are on tier 1, and then Allen's on a tier by himself, and then Burrow is underneath that. Like, out of the elite 4 or the core 4 or the fantastic 4, Joe Burrow has the worst situation. I'd also say that from a passing prowess, precision perspective, he's the best out of the 4 as well. I think in terms of being a pocket passer that plays with poise, timing, and accuracy excellence, Joe Burrow is number 1. But I believe that because he has not made the playoffs the last 2 years, when you combine team achievement, and even if his team is the worst out of the 4, I still have to include that. I think that holds him from being number 1. I think also just consistently being on the field, that's something. And honestly, like, just the fact that, yes, he should be putting up a lot of passing yards and passing touchdowns if his team is constantly trailing, they're giving up points, and he has great receivers, probably the best receiver in the NFL, and the best number 2 receiver in the NFL. So just throwing that out there. But Burrow does have to overcome terrible offensive line play, limited to mediocre run game, a limited to mediocre coach, and a pretty bad defense. So combining all those things, you have to throw that in there. Let's see what they say about him. So prolific is the best way to describe Burrow in 2024. Comeback player of the year the second time. 4,918 yards and 43 touchdowns is insane. And I think my favorite stat of all for Joe Burrow is that he passed Tom Brady from 2007 with the most 253 touchdown consecutive games and still didn't make the playoffs. He had a league high 652 attempts. Okay. His footwork, ball placement, and the mental game at the line of scrimmage, feel for the pocket, eye level, finding creases to step up and throw, he's the best right now. I agree with that. If we're talking about playing the quarterback position, nobody is better, says an AFC scout. Okay. Is he a Bengal scout? I get the guy has 2 elite wideouts, but their run game was average. The offensive line is not very good either. On top of all that, their defense was porous, and he kept them in every single game. I'd love to see Burrow win a Super Bowl. I'd love to see him win an MVP this year. I don't know if they have the team right now to go all the way, but I hope they make the playoffs because the NFL is just so much more fun when Joe Burrow is at his best. So, yeah, Joe Burrow, I understand at 3. I think between Burrow and Lamar, I understand why someone would put Burrow above because I think Burrow has more of that ice-cold game on the line feel to him. And I think if you prefer a pure prolific passer, I understand. But I think the domination of Lamar the last couple of years, statistically speaking, is hard to deny. So let's see what they put. So some people had him at 1, and some had him at 6. That's insane to have Lamar Jackson at 6. 6 is outrageous. I can understand 4. At worst, number 4. I get that. But anywhere lower than 4 is outrageous to me. Okay? Jackson is the most breathtaking player in the game. He might be the most feared, too, depending on whom you ask. He was close to winning a 3rd MVP, which is crazy, right? Only Manning, Rodgers, Brady, Favre, Brown, and Unitas have accomplished that. Okay. A 10-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, winning percentage at 74.4%, and he's a leading rusher on any team he's on. He's one of a kind, says an NFL coach. He's also the NFL leader in QBR per dropback and set a new career high in passing touchdowns, passing yards, and yards per attempt. The only thing is, if a guy ranked him number 6 this year, there's almost no way he has better stats than he did last year. Where are they going to rank him next year? That's my thing. Best space runner in the NFL, and he's such a good passer now, says a defensive coordinator. He's probably doesn't get enough credit for how he's improved. He doesn't get enough credit for his vision and his ability to analyze and scan a field and go with the ball where he needs to go with the ball. And then also on top of that, when something's not there, create outside of that. I think he's really evolved as a player overall. That's me speaking, not the article. I think he's grown as a passer, says an NFL personnel man. He was always more athletic than everyone else, so why not run? But he had to stay in the pocket a little bit more to prolong his career, and he's doing that increasingly well. Yeah, Lamar, I think you could argue for some he'll be number 1. For me, he's not because he hasn't shown the playoff performance. Forget winning a Super Bowl. Just playoff performance consistently at a great level. Okay. So that's why he's not number 1. I put him at number 2 because I think he's been dominant and more consistent than Mahomes and Burrow in the regular season and just overall, right? The last couple of years. Okay. But yeah, I understand 4 for some. I think 6 is crazy. Guys, let me know because that's going to be controversial in the comments. Jayden Daniels is at number 5. That's totally cool and understandable. It is bold for a rookie essentially to be at number 5. His highest ranking though was only 5, so nobody had him in the top 4. That's interesting. Lowest ranking was number 10. Okay. So I guess his lowest ranking wasn't outside the top 10. That's good. Daniels' phenomenal rookie season demanded an appearance somewhere in the top 10. He pushed his way into the top 5, narrowly outdistancing Stafford in voting. No problem validating the hype. I think my question about Jayden Daniels basically comes down to how much can the scheme sustain? And once Jayden has to pivot inside this scheme of Cliff, will he be able to withstand it and be able to keep up that level of performance? Because I think there was a lot of gimmies in the offense. And I think there was a lot of easy throws, quick outlets, RPOs, screens. I think that inflated some of his stats and completions and stuff like that. So I just want to see that continue to validate and how he's able to pivot once he has some sort of pressure or teams start to figure him out more based on seeing him more. So that's the only question I have. But based on talent, he's one of the quickest, most elusive quarterbacks in football, if not the. He is one of the best rushers in football. He has really good accuracy and mechanics. And in big moments last year, he was absolute testicles on a table. So I totally like those things. Third down, fourth down, big game, 2-minute situations, all that sort of stuff. True dual threat rookie. Let's see. Single-handedly took one of the worst franchises in the NFC, or in general, to the NFC title game as a rookie with a bad defense, one legitimate receiver, a dinosaur tight end, and an average at best offensive line. The kid can read coverages, throw with accuracy, and touch to all levels, just as dangerous as Lamar and Josh Allen with his legs, and has a clutch factor to him because his team already believes that he has the ball with the chance to win. I agree with that. The clutch factor was real for him. Sometimes the year one hype can be tough to replicate. CJ Stroud, number 7 last year. Yes, that's the one thing. Is Stroud, is it going to be the same with Stroud? Won 12 games with mediocre at best defense. They're not mediocre. They were not good. And just a decent offensive roster around him. An NFC coordinator said system he plays in requires him to play off schedule and make plays with his feet on a regular basis. Kind of don't really agree with that. And he is still solid in the pocket. I can't disagree. I think I had him at 5 too. Number 6, Matthew Stafford. Okay, I had Stafford at 8 because I didn't feel like this was his best regular season, but I understand that his offensive line had some injuries, the receiving core had some injuries, and in a big game setting, I can understand why someone would put him at 6 because I think he's in the top 3 or 4 based on clutch performance, pure pocket ability, pure pocket ability. I think that Stafford's still up there with the best. He's tough as shit, says an NFL coordinator. Elite poise and toughness in the pocket, the ability to throw with timing and location while he's about to get hit in the chin is among the best. I agree with that, 100%. What else? He's great in 2 areas. After a break, he's produced 39 touchdowns to 9 interceptions over the balance of 2023 and 2024 in games that followed a bye, and on play action, producing the 3rd highest QBR. Conversely, he has a 17.6% of his throws being considered off target, the 2nd worst such clip among quarterbacks who received 1 vote. A big factor for quarterbacks is what they can do on 3rd and 10. Matt scares you more than most. Yeah, because he reads the field well and because he can rip the ball and he's very bold in his decision-making. That's why. He's not a great off-schedule guy, but he's a better on-schedule guy than a lot of guys, and he also just reads the field and progresses through his reads better than most. And I just think, he sets his feet and he can just throw a tight window better than 99% of quarterbacks. Number 7, Justin Herbert, another guy that can do that with the rocket launcher that he has on his right arm. Highest rankings, number 3, which I think is kind of ridiculous. I don't think that Justin Herbert has yet had the team success to basically qualify him as a top 3 quarterback. I think you need to have a certain amount of team success, aka a playoff win, to at least put you in that discussion. But that being said, I think 7 is fair. I actually had him at 6, I think, above Stafford. The last year's ranking was 6, okay? This year's ranking is 7. Fair enough, even though I thought he was kind of better this year than last year. He'd had the lowest interception percentage in the NFL, very good touchdown interception ratio. Passer rating was better than most years. Didn't have the gaudy passing yards, but it was largely because they ran the ball more than most seasons this year due to Greg Roman. And he didn't have any weapons. Like, that's something that I think a lot of Charger and Herbert haters, they don't talk about how, like, he has no weapons. Like, if you were to compare, a lot of people compare Herbert and Hurts. Herbert has no weapons. Herbert has an average offensive line. Maybe this year it could be good, right? The run game, J.K. Dobbins off a torn Achilles. Defense was good last year, but kind of unexpectedly. You look at the Eagles situation. Like, imagine what Herbert could do with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Like, Saquon Barkley. That's the thing, right? Like, Herbert, actually, I think he showed that he could carry a team to a successful season this year. He just has yet to show that he can do it in the playoffs. But that's hard to do. Nobody can really carry in the playoffs unless your name's Tom Brady, right? Like, that's... Once you get to the playoffs, you have to have a good enough team to actually do some things. Maybe you can get a game, but it's hard to actually carry a team in the playoffs. Herbert's immense talent keeps him in the top 7, but he hasn't vaulted him into the top tier quarterbacks despite elite production. Elite production is a little bit far. I don't think he's had elite production lately. That being said, like, collectively, as they say here, is 21,000 career passing yards are the most in NFL history through 5 seasons. That's extremely impressive. It just feels like lately it hasn't been quite as good. His first few years, I would agree. He had the lowest interception rate by any qualified quarterback since Tom Brady in 2016. See, I told you. He always been a top 5 to 8 quarterback, accurate to all levels, athletic, sound decision maker. I think that's kind of accurate. Like, the last few years, he's 5 through 8, somewhere in that range, maybe even 4 in certain seasons. But I think that's very fair. And it's not as though he can't thrive late in games. His 15 game-winning drives are the most from any quarterback drafted in 2020 or later. Interesting to throw at the haters there. But he does have an 0-2 playoff record. The players above him in the top 10 consistently create more off-schedule plays and are more dangerous in 2-minute drill and have won in the playoffs. Fair enough. The offense he currently plays in is by far the least quarterback-friendly. I would agree with that, which doesn't help him. Justin can get there. He has the ability, so it should come in time. Yeah, I think Herbert's going to eventually win some big games. I think Harbaugh is definitely getting him there, but he definitely needs some support, especially in weapons, you know? Jared Goff at number 8. I think that's too high for Jared Goff, personally. I would have Jared Goff at, like, number 9 through 11. I think that's fair. 8 is just too high. Like, it's a touch too high for me. Highest ranking was 5, which is crazy. Lowest ranking, unranked, which I also understand. I had him at 11, I think, on my list this year. Last year's ranking, like, based on 2024, I would have had him, like, 9 or 10. But based on entering 2025, I had him at 11, if that makes sense. Last year, he was at number 9, so he moved up a spot. And I think this was probably the best year of his career. At least, like, the best year I've ever seen him play. I don't know about stats. Maybe not. 3 years ago, heck, even 2, Goff placing in the top 10 was bold. Now it's rare to find a ballot without him on it. 82% of the top 10. Wow, that's interesting. He's developed into one of the best pure passers. Okay. He doesn't turn the ball over like he used to. I think some of that's the offensive line and the protection that he now has. He's a reliable quarterback with a real arm. He's not just a drop back passer who makes shit happen. He's become more than that. I think, I've talked about Goff. I think his most impressive trait is the ability to make the right decision consistently, which is the number one trait a quarterback needs to be successful. He constantly knows where to go with the ball within his offense and constantly is taking the right choice on a given play, whether that's throwing the ball underneath, throwing the ball over the top, or throwing the ball away, right? Like, there's different levels of decisions that you need to make in a game, right? Goff ranks second in the NFL in yards per attempt, second most yards, especially good on play action. Yeah, he's very good on play action. Leading the NFL in completion percentage, yards, and touchdowns. Now we'll see how he does without Ben Johnson. That's going to be everyone's question. No more Frank Ragnow as well. So a little bit less around him than there was previously, but still ridiculous weapons, still a good offensive line, or very good running game. So all those things will still be there. We'll see how great Goff truly is. He should still be at the prime of his career next year. He's improved in his ability to reset his feet and deliver the ball accurately. Okay. The coaching staff in Detroit gave him a greater sense of calm in the pocket, and he's capitalized. I do think he's become tougher. I do think he's become bolder. I do think he's become just like more mentally tough. I think early in his career, he would make a mistake and that would like really hurt his mental, but I feel like his bounce back ability is definitely there. Goff's success has come with 2 different teams and 2 different play callers. Now he must prove he can do it without them. Yeah, well, we'll see. Number 9, Jalen Hurts. Now, one thing for Jalen Hurts to give him a positive, he has proven it with multiple play callers. Now, to counteract that, you would say that basically the offense has maintained the same no matter who the play caller has been with Jalen Hurts. And I think there has actually been a confirmation from the Eagles that they basically run the offense that Jalen Hurts wants to run no matter the offensive coordinator. He is the offensive coordinator in some way, shape, or form. And that's fair enough. He's the quarterback deciding. But he, at least with different names at the helm, has been able to get to 2 Super Bowls with different coordinators. Same head coach, different coordinators. So that's a point in his favor, similar to Jared Goff. Highest ranking 6, lowest ranking unranked. That's fair. I think that he should be in everyone's top 10, though. I think that's a little unfair just because I think at this point, you know, he won the Super Bowl. He played great in the playoffs when he needed to. And in 2022, he was also an MVP candidate. 2023, had kind of a rough year, but yeah. And he's only 26, too. Hurts' status is cemented. He's a Super Bowl winner who plays big in big moments. He's the most potent short yardage quarterback. That's also something, too, right? His I don't know about NFL history. I mean, Cam Newton might have an argument there because Cam Newton never had the Eagles' offensive line. His streak of 4 consecutive seasons with 10 or more rushing touchdowns is the league's longest ever for a passer. He's also one of the game's most accurate passers. I don't agree with that, but that I guess statistically. Ranking first in completion percentage over expected. He throws a beautiful deep ball. I do agree with that. That touchdown pass to Devontae Smith was a Superdome-sized work of art. I agree with that. That was a beautiful play. He had a better year running the ball, and the way he played down the stretch when healthy was impressive. Okay, I'm intrigued to hear why he is only number 9. Because I think a lot of people are going to say, whoa, Hurts is only 9. He should be 5. He should be 6. He should be 4. So I want to hear why he is so low, personally. He better throwing the ball this year in general, cut out the turnovers. Like, I think I know why, but I kind of want to hear why. Because I had him at 9 or 8. So I think I had him at 9. So I had him at this exact spot. So I agree with it. I'm just kind of intrigued to hear kind of why, okay? When asked to be a high-volume thrower in 2023, he struggled taking care of the ball with 15 picks. To his credit, he cut that number down with far fewer attempts. See, he had 200 less attempts. So yes, of course, you're going to have less turnovers. That makes sense. The question isn't whether Hurts belongs in the top 10. He does. I agree with that. It's whether he has the ability from the pocket to vault into the top 5 eventually. Okay. More than a few voters see shades of Russell Wilson career arc. Hurts has many traits that contribute to winning at a high level, but needs a steady running game around him and wouldn't necessarily thrive in a pass-heavy system. I think that's fair. You know, I think that's been proven by his career. I think also just with Jalen Hurts is like, bro's on a really ridiculous team. Like, especially last year. I mean, all-time running back season. The engine of the team was the offensive line and Saquon Barkley, not Jalen Hurts, despite him playing really well in big moments. He has a top 4 receiver in football, in my opinion, in A.J. Brown. He has one of the number 2s best in the league. He has a top 6 or 7 tight end in Dallas Goedert and the best offensive line, right? And he had a head coach at offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, and he had the best defense in the league. So, like, most top 15, 16 quarterbacks in football would win the Super Bowl with that supporting cast. I think the question about Hurts will be, when his team isn't as good, how good is he? I think that's the question. And I think also, like, the biggest, like, negative I've thrown at him is not to hate, it's just to be fair. Like, I think it's basically what they said. Volume. Like, they had the least amount of passing attempts in the NFL this year. Volume to me is important. Like, my favorite stat among all quarterbacks in NFL history is Tom Brady's winning percentage when he throws the ball 40 times. Because that shows you how much a quarterback has to carry a team to win the game, right? Like, Jalen Hurts does never have to do that. So, I understand number 9. I could understand him from, like, number 6. Even, like, if someone wanted to put him at 5, I wouldn't even really hate. I just feel like I wouldn't really agree. But if you wanted to put him at 5 through 9 or 10, I think that's totally fair. I think it just kind of depends on your perspective. I had him at 9. At number 10, Baker Mayfield, who I did have ahead of Jalen Hurts. Part of it is volume. Like Baker, I felt Baker was phenomenal this year in a way that I don't think he gets credit. He was an MVP. Remember, Jalen Hurts was nowhere near the MVP discussion this year. Baker was. His highest ranking was 5, which I appreciate. Lowest ranking unranked, which I think that person is on drugs. If you watched him play this year, he was undeniably fantastic. Only Allen and Jackson have more touchdowns over the past 2 years. That is an extremely underrated player. Fearless as a thrower and a runner. Yes. He's got on-field leadership where his teammates want to support him. Yes. Love that about him. Much better arm than a given credit for. Yes. Good mover in the pocket and can rush for yards. That was the best I've ever seen him this year at that. Attacks the third level of the defense when he's got the time. He's as good as almost anybody right now. Love that. Last season, Mayfield joined Brady as the only quarterback in Bucs history to have 40 touchdowns. Guys, he had 40 touchdowns. He dominated the blitz, leading all quarterbacks in completion percentage and touchdowns against the blitz. He honestly reminds me of Favre a little bit as far as his style of play. That's cool. He's got a moxie in him, like F you, I'm on attack. And the defensive guys feel that presence. I agree. That's cool. So I pretty much agree with this list in terms of who's on it. I think Jared Goff is the one exception. I would have him at 11, and I would have CJ Stroud on the list. But if you're basing it more on 2024, I agree with that, okay? My only real conversation is I think Lamar is too low. I don't agree with Patrick Mahomes being number 1. I don't think Stafford, if I were to rank the quarterbacks entering next year, I wouldn't have him quite as high. I would have him a little bit lower. I think I would put Herbert above. Daniels at 5 feels good. There are Hurts debates, which I want to hear from you guys about. Let's look at the honorable mentions. So we got CJ Stroud, who Dan Orlovsky was adamant that CJ Stroud's a top 7 quarterback in the NFL. I don't think he played like that last year. But I can understand it if you're projecting forward. I just feel like based on last year, I don't see that. He was number 7 the year previous. The voting for spots 8 through 11 was close. Stroud appeared on nearly half the ballots, but struggled to capture the same momentum that landed up 7 as a rookie. While his production was down from previous years, Stroud had to overcome issues with Houston's offense in 2024. Most doubters expect him back in the top 10 next year. Most doubters? That doesn't make sense. That can affect your confidence when the protection and play calling around you isn't great. Yes. It can tie all together, but the framework of what made him great as a rookie is still there. Such a natural thrower of the football with elite ball placement. Jordan Love. I don't agree with Jordan Love getting votes in the top 10. I know there are some that love Jordan Love because of his throwing ability, specifically his big-time throwing ability, like his ability to make elite throws. But I think that his consistency is too inconsistent. Love appeared ready for top 10 status by the end of 2023. He was effing outstanding, an NFL personnel evaluator said about that stretch. Play action, on time, big arm, confidence that shifted slightly in 2024. It looked like it took him time to work through the injury. Injury is fair. I mean, you could also say that affected him big time. Another full offseason. I could see Love being top 10 next year. I brought that up in my rankings where I think, there's a few guys that could jump into the top 10, specifically Jordan Love and Drake May. I think those are guys that could break out. I think Purdy too. Also receiving votes, Kyler Murray, which is interesting. Didn't expect to see that. Brock Purdy. Okay. Respect. Dak Prescott. Don't agree anymore. Aaron Rodgers. What? Tua. Wow. Okay. And Bo Nix. All right. Interesting. You guys let me know what you think. This is a pretty good list. Pretty interesting. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, don't forget to Gronk spike that like button, man. I'm all about the reactions. I'm all about the fun on the BLV. And check out the rest of my position rankings all summer long. We'll see you in the next one. Don't be a jabroni. Subscribe. Peace.